Hey, folks. Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. I am back from Washington, D.C. I was there for a very eventful day yesterday, attended last night, honored to attend, invited by Prime Minister Netanyahu. His wife, Sarah Netanyahu, hosted a reception at Blair House. Now, that is the White House guest house right next door to the White House. And it was in honor of the U.S.-Israel relationship, that unbreakable bond, that unbreakable alliance, God willing always, certainly now under President Trump, between the U.S. and Israel. So what a night it was. Great reception. The prime minister spoke, and there was a who's who in the pro-Israel community, I guess you would say, attended this event. So I was honored to be there. And while I was there, also, a few of us media types received an off-the-record briefing from a senior Israeli official who cannot be named, but someone who, let's just say, is very intimately aware and acquainted with everything going on in Israel and the Middle East right now and Israel's thinking. So I want to share some of those very juicy tidbits that this senior Israeli official shared with us. You're going to want to know this, folks, about everything from Iran, what's next for Iran, what's next for Hamas, the plan for the Houthis to deal with them. Some really great insights in this briefing from a senior Israeli official yesterday. So let's break it down. And look, let's start with reports that Israel is considering new strikes against Iran. Now, what would these strikes target, right? I guess that's the big question. Would these strikes target Iran's nuclear weapons facilities or what's left of them? Because it doesn't seem like there's all that much left, at least at Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. And a big takeaway, actually, from this briefing yesterday from the senior Israeli official that I mentioned is that Israel firmly believes 100% that the enriched uranium at those three sites, Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, that were destroyed, that the enriched uranium there is still there, buried, I guess, underground beneath the rubble, but that uranium has not been moved. That's the belief of the Israeli government. So that's encouraging because you've heard a lot of noise, and I do mean noise, from the mainstream media over the past few weeks saying, hey, that uranium was moved and it's not there, because folks, what they're trying to do is downplay what President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu accomplished together in destroying Iran's nuclear program. And okay, this senior Israeli official said in our briefing yesterday, okay, they're saying Iran's nuclear program was set back by 2 years. And this official said, look, it's going to be a lot longer than that. Think of, they said, 1981, when Israel struck Iraq's nuclear reactor in Osiris, Saddam's nuclear program. Granted, it was only one reactor compared to 12 in Iran, but needless to say, back then the estimates were in 81, look, Iraq's going to rebuild it within 2 years. Well, it's 44 years later, and we still have no Iraqi nuclear program. So this Israeli official said, look, this damage will be long-lasting to Iran's nuclear program. And the big takeaway is, if there is any intelligence that Iran is trying to engage in nuclear jihadi monkey business at those nuclear sites, whether taking the uranium out, trying to remove it from those destroyed sites, ramping things up again, getting the centrifuges going again, ramping up the ballistic missile program again, then Israel and the United States will, or perhaps Israel alone, but certainly Bibi and Trump seem very much on the same page, in no daylight, united in ensuring that Iran never has those capacities once again to threaten not only Israel, but America and the entire free world, and the entire world for that matter, free or none. That's what an Iranian nuclear program would have meant. So I've got a lot to share from this briefing that you're going to want to hear. And I want to break down comments today from Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz. Yes, his name is Israel, and he's the defense minister of Israel, and he's doing a great job talking about a potential new strike, or strikes, plural, against Iran. Does it target the nuclear facilities or what's left of them? Maybe there's some sites outside of those three that were struck where Israel feels like it needs to do some mopping up, so to speak. And secondly, are there some additional sensitive sites, military sites, intelligence sites in Iran that Israel is saying, ballistic missile sites, that Israel is saying, okay, we've got a golden opportunity here to take these sites out while Iran still has no air defenses before Iran. And we've got reports, right, of China, the communist regime in Beijing, this week, perhaps supplying Iran with air defenses. We're hearing some troubling things. And none of this is surprising, by the way. I didn't think Iran was going to suddenly stand pat and become a moderate voice for compassion and reason. We knew that wasn't the case because evil, this kind of evil, and folks, it is demonic evil, it is relentless. So they're going to forge ahead. They're going to at least try to rebuild their terror apparatus, the Ring of Fire, the missile program. The nuclear program, they got to be very careful because I think that they now know Israel's intelligence, and the U.S. for that matter, is so superior inside Iran, on Iranian soil, that it will be very tough for the Ayatollahs to restart a nuclear program unless, and we mentioned this on the live stream the other day, unless the likes of, say, North Korea provide some nuclear know-how. I mean, North Korea, always a wild card and a close ally of the Iranian regime. We've got a lot to break down and some very interesting comments from this senior Israeli official who's very well connected to the current leadership. You're going to want to hear this. But first, if you like what you're hearing, current events, breaking news, chiefly from Israel and the Middle East and from a prophetic perspective, but we go all around the horn, Russia, China, and points beyond it right here in America, where I'm based, of course, then be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. And by the way, you know about our great partner, Magen David Adom. Well, folks, they have stepped up their game, if that's possible. Israel's emergency services system, which responds to every single terror attack, missile attack, even a car accident in Israel, Magen David Adom, they're the first on the ground. They are Israel's first responders. We're proud to partner with them, SaveLivesIsrael.com, to support them. But if it's even possible, they have upped their game even more in the recent, during the recent 12-day war over the past month or so with Iran, as ballistic missiles, Iranian ballistic missiles, were raining down on Israeli towns and cities. Magen David Adom stepped up to the plate in unprecedented ways. And look, 29 Israelis were killed, hundreds more wounded, buildings reduced to rubble by these Iranian missiles. That's where Magen David Adom comes in. First on the ground, they collect, process, and distribute the entire nation's blood supply, for starters, not only civilians, but the Israel Defense Forces as well. They dispatch every ambulance in Israel. And look, they receive thousands of emergency calls every day, especially since October 7th, when Israel's been fighting a war on 7 fronts. Magen David Adom is there. Over 35,000 EMTs, paramedics, and first responders. And guess what? 90% of them are volunteers. That's right. They're not getting paid for this. So, folks, that's where your support comes in. Not to put money in their pockets. That's not what it's about. It's to enable Magen David Adom in the state of Israel to have more ambulances, more bandages, more medical supplies. There's a dire need right now, especially in the wake of that 12-day war. We still have people now who were left homeless from the 12-day war, let alone Gaza, the Gaza region, or along the Gaza border there in southern Israel, northern Israel, along the Lebanon border over the past year and a half. It's been a nightmare. And this is where Magen David Adom comes in. Magen David Adom. I can still speak English, I promise. The thing is, I was up at 3:30 in the morning this morning, getting an early flight out of DC to come back to Dallas to do my show, Stakelbeck tonight. So apologies, I'm a little fried at this point, but you, my dear watchmen and women on the wall, put wind in my sails and give me the energy I need to keep going. And Magen David Adom gives Israel what it needs to keep going. Again, SaveLivesIsrael.com. Incredible organization I'm proud to partner with. And people say, how can I bless Israel? How can I help in Israel's time of greatest need? How can I fulfill that biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the people of Israel? Here you go. Magen David Adom, SaveLivesIsrael.com. And look, Israel, by acting first against Iran's nuclear weapons facilities, saved a whole lot of Israeli lives and American lives and lives throughout the Middle East and beyond. They saw the gathering storm, or one man, Benjamin Netanyahu in particular. He's been talking about the threat of a nuclear Iran for over 30 years. He saw the gathering storm, And at the end of the day, President Trump did as well and came alongside Bibi, and they destroyed those nuclear sites. I'll say it again. I've been saying it throughout the weeks. These are two Churchillian figures, echoes of Winston Churchill here, saving the West from disaster, from an imminent looming threat. So where does that leave us now? The dust is settling, right? Bibi and Trump met at the White House this week. So where are we now? They are laser focused, are Bibi and Trump, on Iran's potential attempts. I mean, it's not potential. I think everyone watching right now knows that the Iranian regime is going to attempt to rearm. But Bibi and Trump are definitely devising a plan to combat that and prevent that. And here was Israel Katz, Israel's defense minister, just today. He was speaking to a group of IAF, Israeli Air Force pilots, at the graduation ceremony today. He said, quote, that these Israeli Air Force pilots, are, quote, a direct message to the dictator, Supreme Leader Khamenei in Iran, and to the Ayatollahs about the destructive power of the Israeli Air Force should Iran test the Jewish state's patience again. There is no place where Iranian officials who harm Israel can hide, he added. We bridged the challenge of 1,800 kilometers, over 1,000 miles, and transformed Iran from a third circle, a faraway country, to a first circle, nearby country. And he said, and this is important, ladies and gentlemen, the military campaign has not ended. We are ready to act anytime it is needed. And that's not the first time he said that. And it's not the first time there have been reports in recent weeks since the 12-day war wrapped that Israel may be planning another go-round in Iran. Not probably to the extent of the initial 12-day war, but some mopping up. That's an understatement, mopping up. That de-emphasizes the importance of these operations. But let's just say there are some sites that Israel is still very concerned about, including perhaps some nuclear sites or what's left of them. So do not be surprised, folks, in the next few weeks, next few months, if you have a breaking alert here, live stream on the Watchman YouTube channel, that, hey, Israeli planes are in the skies once again, striking inside Iran. And what Israel wants to create, and wisely, and is, nudging the U.S., hey, you with us on this, is the situation or a situation similar to what they have in Lebanon right now. Look, ceasefire with Hezbollah went into effect right around Thanksgiving, November 2024. And yet, over the past several months, Israel has continued to strike in Lebanon, not on a regular basis, but anytime Hezbollah, number one, violates the ceasefire, and number two, rears its head near Israel's border or tries to transit weapons, etc., Israel strikes. They're planning to do the same thing in Iran. Anytime Iran rears its head, starts rearming and up to no good, Israel will strike. Folks, I think it's pretty certain that will happen. Now, the big question is, how does Iran react? Do things unravel again into a war? We don't know. But Israel and the senior Israeli official I spoke to yesterday was very clear about this. We're not going to sit and wait around, because that means the destruction of the Jewish state. So no, we're not going to sit and wait around for our enemies to destroy us and to arm themselves with the weapons that could wipe us off the map. And this senior Israeli official said, look, President Trump didn't wait. He could have stood pat and waited, but no, he acted. He's a man of action. Bibi is a man of action, and together they're doing wonderful things. But here are some more notes I think you'd like to know from this meeting. Again, if you're just joining us, I just returned from Washington, D.C. I'm a little tired. You heard me stumble and mumble and bumble a little earlier over a few of my words. It was a very long 3 days. I had a massive flight delay on Tuesday, but I'm here and God is good. And he opened a great door there. So here's what we have. I took a bunch of notes in this briefing. Again, it was at the Blair House, which is the guest house connected to the White House. It was a senior Israeli official briefing myself and a group of members of the media, some mainstream media, some not mainstream media, but all respectful, and it all went smoothly. But okay, some notes on Iran. Number one, this was really chilling to me. A few things here. I'm just reading straight my notes straight from my phone here. I don't want to misquote. Iran was in a rush to weaponize when Israel struck, and the U.S. by extension struck as well. Now, the trigger, no pun intended, for Iran to, rush to the gates of a nuclear capacity, surprise, surprise, were the collapse of Hezbollah, number one, and number two, the collapse of Assad in Syria. Look, Hezbollah, by all intents and purposes, you had Operation Exploding Pager, of course. The Radwan force was taken out. But when Nasrallah was killed, that sent chills down the Iranian regime's spines. He was very close to the Ayatollah, very close to the regime. And the regime said, uh-oh, we're fair game as well. If Israel would take out Nasrallah, they may take us out too. That was a trigger, number one, for them to, we need to ramp up. We need to race to the bomb now. The only thing that will preserve our regime is if we have the nuclear factor. Look at North Korea. You don't hear anyone talking anymore about regime change in North Korea because they're a nuclear weapons power. Iran saw the North Korea model. They said that's the way we should go, especially when their very close client, Bashar al-Assad, fell right after the Hezbollah ceasefire went into effect and Hezbollah was smashed. Assad, as a result of that, collapsed about 2 weeks later. And now he's in exile in Moscow somewhere. Once Hezbollah collapsed, Gaza had already collapsed, but then Hezbollah and then Syria. Syria, that was the crown jewel of Iran's ring of fire in that it was the transit point for all weapons to be funneled into Hezbollah. That really frightened the Iranian regime. And again, they said, okay, how can we hang on to power? We may be next, they were saying. So how can we hang on to power? We're close to the bomb. Let's just do it. Let's race to it now and break out, and we'll have the bomb. Then no one will mess with us. And even better, we can threaten the world with it. Well, Israel and President Trump beat them to the punch, but they were rushing to weaponize. They were months from the bomb. They were proceeding, quote, rapidly and secretly. They wanted to weaponize. Now, here was what was also chilling for me, to hear this senior Israeli official outline this. Folks, get this. Iran's plan over the next 5 years was to produce 3,600 ballistic missiles per year, 3,600, or 300 per month. Now, you saw the damage those ballistic missiles did during the 12-day war. Not many of them got through. Most were intercepted, but the ones that did get through caused a lot of damage. Let's face it. And that's why we support Magen David Adom and their great work so strongly. Again, it's SaveLivesIsrael.com. But the plan would be, these were 1-ton ballistic missiles, by the way. This senior Israeli official gave us the specifications. Massive missiles with massive payloads. They wanted to have 20,000 of these ballistic missiles within the next 5 years alone. And of course, Israel, during that 12-day war, Operation Rising Lion, took out, I believe, half of those Iranian missile launchers and probably half of their missiles themselves as well on the ground. Just a stunning success by all measures. But I say all that to say, Israel was up against it. They waited till the last possible moment to take out the nuclear. And this senior Israeli official in the briefing yesterday made very clear this was a dual operation geared towards negating a dual threat: Iran's nuclear weapons program and the ballistic missile program. Do not underestimate that. That was key, the ballistic missile program. You need something to deliver those nukes with, right? And Iran was working also on intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. They do exactly what their name says, are designed to travel across continents, across oceans, and they're not for the little Satan, in Iran's view, Israel. Those ICBMs were for the great Satan, the United States. No daylight, another key point here, speaking of the United States and Israel, this senior Israeli official had high praise for President Trump. He said, look, don't believe the hype from the mainstream media. There is no daylight between the U.S. and Israel. We're on the same page, fully lined up. Bibi and Trump have a very close relationship. It's all systems go. And I think you saw that this week at the White House when they met. So that's encouraging to know. And I believe, look, that brings blessings for America. I'm a firm believer in the foundational verse, Genesis 12:3. God Almighty says to Abraham, referring to his offspring, the people of Israel, I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. History bears that out. And also, God adds, and this is sometimes overlooked, but it's very important in his next breath, and through you, Abraham, through you, Israel, the Jewish people, all nations on earth will be blessed. Tell me that hasn't panned out. Look no further than the Bible itself, handed down to us by the Jewish people, and the Messiah Jesus, handed down coming through the Jewish people. I could go on, and that's just in the spiritual. But no daylight there. A warning that the Iranian cancer could reappear. The regime is fragile, the senior Israeli official said, but they're not toppled yet. They're fragile, but the goal is, I think everyone wants to see the Iranian people rise up and do it organically and take down the regime. We shall see. It's a death cult. Oh, this Iranian Ring of Fire, and you've heard me use that terminology. These are maniacal death cults, but the leadership, at least, doesn't want to die. They're willing to send millions of their own people, if necessary, to die, but they want to hang on to their cushy lives and just send people to their deaths, to their doom, and maim, murder, and destroy, all while they sit in very nice digs somewhere in Tehran. The Trump strike was a game changer. The senior Israeli official really had high praise for President Trump. It changed the Middle East. And an important point here, he said, look, Trump, in acting so forcefully, this official said, Trump sent a message to the world. America's back. American strength, American deterrence, peace through strength, imagine that, is back. And everyone was taking notes. China, Russia, North Korea, and everyone's seeing, okay, America can be counted on again. Imagine that, truly acting as the leader of the free world once again under President Trump. And a great point by the senior Israeli official saying, look, Trump acted as a great American patriot because this threatened America, as we just laid out, this Iranian nuclear problem. He said, the world hates Jews as a victor. The world likes Jews as victims, not as the victor. And the world respects the strong, which is very true. Some interesting nuggets here about the Houthis in Yemen. Now, I want to talk a little Gaza with you too, which is short and sweet, what this official said about Gaza. But the Houthis in Yemen, and by the way, question as I go on here, do you believe that Israel is going to strike Iran again? Watchmen and women on the wall, what do you think? Do you think more strikes are coming against Iran from Israel? Let me know what you think there. We have a very educated audience who follows everything very closely, so I'd love to get your thoughts. Some thoughts on the Houthis. I mean, folks, I've been saying this over the past few weeks, if you've been watching. The Houthis are a tough nut to crack. And you might say, I don't get it. Israel took down Hamas, took down Hezbollah, basically took down Assad, and took down Iran's nuclear and missile programs, and they can't take down these cave dwellers in Yemen? I don't get it. Just this week, the Houthis, look, hijacked shipping in the Red Sea. 2 ships, once again, were attacked. They're still firing ballistic missiles at Israel. And this senior Israeli official said, look, the Houthis will be destroyed. And that was encouraging and refreshing for me to know, because I've been saying something's got to be done. You can't have a situation where Israelis are running into bomb shelters every night because of Houthi missiles being launched. You can't have it. The problem is Yemen's a tough nut to crack in that, look, rugged, vast, mountainous terrain, caves, plenty of places to hide, desert, it's vast. Airstrikes work to a degree, but at the end of the day, this problem, and this senior Israeli official said it yesterday, requires boots on the ground, not an invasion. I don't think this official meant that. I certainly don't mean that. Perhaps targeted commando type raids that target the Houthi leadership, cut the head off the snake, just as Israel did with Hamas and Hezbollah, and to a degree, the Iranian regime, cut the head off the snake. Because the Houthis, look, they have large ballistic missile stockpiles and plenty of places to hide them. So airstrikes will only get you so far here. But the senior Israeli official said the U.S. started it against the Houthis, started smashing them, and Israel will finish it. And I quote. And this official also said, look, it will require some kind of boots on the ground. Maybe it's an alliance. And it would have to include Arab nations. Remember, the Saudis and the UAE waged war with the Houthis for several years. That just wound down a few years ago. And also, there are forces in Yemen on the ground who do not like the Houthis, who are enemies of the Houthis. So there's got to be some kind of solution there. And it seems that Israel is really now going to be able to focus and figure out a way to just destroy the Houthis and put an absolute stop to the missiles being launched from Yemen against Israel. That was, for me, a very interesting nugget out of this conversation. And one more I want to share with you. I mentioned at the top, okay, that enriched uranium has not been moved at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Israel says, no, don't believe the mainstream media hype. That uranium's still there, trapped under the rubble of those destroyed nuclear sites, thank God. But Hamas, this was very cut and dry. All the noise you're hearing, conflicting reports from the mainstream media this week, the senior Israeli official, again, who's close to the government, of course, to the leadership, said, look, Hamas will be destroyed and their abilities to fight will be completely dismantled. And that's non-negotiable, because you're hearing conflicting reports. Well, Israel, they might withdraw and leave Hamas intact. This senior official was adamant during this briefing yesterday at the Blair House, said, no way. There's no way we will leave Hamas intact. We are going to decisively and utterly crush them, and we're going to get back every last hostage. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take, and people might not like to hear that, but this senior Israeli official made a great point, saying, look, that's like America saying during World War II, well, we'll leave some Nazis there. We'll still leave the Nazis in charge. We'll leave some Nazis still there in charge. We would never do that, clearly. But the world expects insane things from Israel, of course, always. It's a spiritual battle at the end of the day. So some big takeaways there, right? I think on the Iran front, to me, all encouraging. The Iran front, the U.S. and Israel, no daylight, completely united. They will not allow Iran to rear its head again in the way that it once did. The Houthi front, very important. I mean, the Houthi factor, now they're attacking shipping in the Red Sea again. It's got to stop. I think everyone is saying, look, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And Israel's committed to stopping it. And third, Gaza. Look, everyone would like to see the Gaza war wind down. And the Israeli government saying, great, we'd like to see it too, but not with Hamas still living and breathing. We're not going to do it. And you better believe those hostages better be living and breathing when they're returned. So a lot to unpack there. And went to this great reception after the briefing. Actually, the prime minister was there at that reception with his wife, Sarah, and they had some great words to say about the United States. General Erick was there, who really helped engineer, I think, that incredible B-2 bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities back on June 22nd, early in the morning. But a great event, a lot of great people. There was a buzz in the room, folks, I would say, that things are happening. Prophetic pieces are moving. Trump and Bibi are a prophetic pairing, a pair of Cyruses together. That's a biblical perspective. I've called them two Churchills combined. So great things are coming. Fasten your seatbelts, prophetic things in the days to come, and we will give you a front row seat here on the Watchman News channel. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.